Yo, what's going on, guys? Let's try back again here, bringing another video review. So this one's going to be a review of a comic book, the comic book The Walking Dead. So as you guys may know, I do a lot of Walking Dead TV show reviews of each episode and stuff like that. And a long time ago, I did a review for the Walking Dead comic book for a video, but I had to take the video down due to some trouble with the YouTube channel. So I decided that I will go ahead and revisit it and redo a review, a thorough review of the comic book. This review will contain some spoilers, although not too many. So if you intend on reading the comic book and you're worried about certain things getting spoiled, as you kind of should be, because if you're going to read it, this is the type of comic book that you want to read without knowing what's going to happen, because there's a lot of shocking moments throughout the book. A lot of twists that you would never expect Kirkman to make in this comic book. So if you're worried about that, don't watch this video. It's not for you. So those of you who have either read it or don't care if I spoil it, let's get right into it. So at this point, we got 91 issues. The comic book's been coming out for about 8 years. It's been, in my opinion, the most exciting comic book to come out in the last, 10, 20 years. Just absolutely amazing. Every time the issue comes out, it flies off the shelves. Pretty much the next issue flies right off the shelves. This is pretty much the only comic book that I follow religiously at this point. Every other comic book is kind of like, they go through so many changes, different writers, different artists. They change a lot. It's, for me, I like to read. I read a bunch of different titles, but definitely if I had to pick just one title that I was able to read, it would be The Walking Dead. I currently read like Green Lantern, Batman, X-Men, a few different Avenger titles and stuff like that. But definitely The Walking Dead to me stands out as the one that every month when it comes out, I just can't wait to see what's going to happen next. And it's been that way ever since the comic book started. Robert Kirkman does such a good job of making this comic book interesting all the time. It's never had a boring moment since it started, ever. Not even one. Those of you guys who watch the TV show, the first season of the TV show is mostly like the first trade paperback, so the first 6 issues of the comic book. Okay. Past that, we get into some different things, and some of it's the same, some of it's different. Let's do a synopsis from the top. So, with the big difference being, of course, between the TV show and the comic book, in the very first trade paperback at the end, the sort of cliffhanger ending is that Shane dies. Okay, so Shane gets shot in the neck by Carl when he pulls a gun on Rick, basically. And, that for me, I like the fact that they changed that in the TV show to let Shane live on further, because Shane's a cool character in the TV show. But in the comic book, Shane is not a cool character. He's just a dick. That's all there is to it. He's not interesting. He's very one-dimensional. He's very stubborn, and he's not, he's just not a likable character in the comic book. So they blow by that really quickly with killing Shane off. And they move on from there. Now, as you go throughout the story of this comic book, it's really interesting. For me, I think the most interesting thing about it is to start to see the characters die off. So you start, at the beginning you have this big group of characters. By the time the first graphic novel is done, you've already lost, probably, 3 or 4 people from the main group. Okay. And then the group changes, they take on a few new people, but then slowly but surely, every few episodes or every few, trade paperbacks, you've got characters dying. They go around, they move around to some different places, and then they, very quickly, by about the 3rd graphic novel, they have settled at, or trade paperback graphic novel, they have settled at the prison, okay? So once they get to the prison and they stay at the prison, they stay there for a long time. They stay there for like 40 issues, I want to say 50 issues, something like that. Like they stay at the prison for a long time. A good portion of the total comic book series is at the prison. Aside from that, you've got them going around at different parts, staying at the farm for a little while, staying at the new community they're at. Staying at that initial place outside of Atlanta where they were just, basically camping at the camp. Those are really the only spots they've really been at so far throughout the entire, the entire comic book. So the prison was really a place they were at for a very, very long time. And I think out of, everything I've seen from The Walking Dead to the TV show, the comic book, everything, the most exciting thing from any of them is the ending of the prison, okay? the part, everything that happens with the governor and that story arc and how that all comes down at the end is probably the most exciting and shocking story arc of any comic book I have ever read, for sure. There's no question about it. I mean, it takes a character like Rick, who you're so set, and this is how he is. And major spoilers here, last warning. So you think of him as like a family man. You think of him as wanting to protect his son, wanting to protect his wife and his new daughter. And this is the way you think of him. And that totally gets changed when you get to see Lori and the baby get shot down. Totally crazy. I mean, that's got to be the most shocking moment of any issue of the entire Walking Dead comic book series, when Lori dies, and the other baby too, Judy. So and then going on from there, like that was amazing. Right there was the best point of the entire series. There's no question about that, at least to me anyway. Going on from there, we get to see. I find it very interesting. Some people think of it as kind of like a boring part after the prison ends. I actually like it a lot because it gets to show, you get to see kind of how Rick and Carl and the rest of the characters are dealing with how the fact that almost their whole group that they had at the prison is pretty much gone, like almost, and the group is really like split in half. Like all the characters you had before there, it's like, okay, cut that in half, and that's how many characters get to live now. So going on from there, lately we haven't seen too many character deaths, not too many, I think. I think that that's okay because we've seen so many over the years. The characters that are left alive now have to be really good survivors, man, because otherwise they would have died a long time ago. Going on, you've got the story with Fear the Hunters and Here We Remain. The hunters with the cannibals. I mean, those people are that's just crazy. That's really dark. That's one of the darkest parts of the whole series. There's no question about that. Just a very dark group of people, a very weird, aura they have to them, and the way they act and everything like that, and what they do to Dale and all that, and then eventually Dale dying off as a character is, again, I don't want to say it's really shocking because, he's older and stuff, so you kind of knew it was going to happen, but eventually. But when it actually does, and you lose one of your A-list characters from the group, it's always weird to see. But I think that part of them losing characters as they go along makes it really feel like it's exciting. You're really excited to see what's going to happen next. What's going to happen with the characters. Are they going to survive? Are they going to make it? Because sometimes they don't, and that's really what makes it interesting. It makes it worth reading. Is because it's not like in most comic books where the good guy's always going to win. In this story, the good guy doesn't always win. Sometimes the good guy gets his hand chopped off. Sometimes the good guy's wife gets shot in the stomach. Sometimes the good guy's son, gets his eye blown off, or daughter gets shot. You just don't see these kinds of things in any other comic book, which is what I think makes this so different, so special. But that's what it is. It's a horror comic book. It's based in a zombie apocalypse world, so to be realistic to that world, these types of things are, this is going to happen. This is just kind of the way it is for them now. So, and then going on to the community that they have now that they're building up, Alexandria, I believe it's called. So, that community and everything has been, very exciting to see. And, as the series goes on further, I'm always excited to see the next issue. And, it's still my favorite comic book out of any comic book out there right now. It's still the one I, just go to grab every time it comes out. So, in terms of what I can give this as a score, this series, did something in comic books that I didn't even think was possible. It's really just, it's setting a standard, for what the zombie genre can be, for what the horror genre in comics can be. Setting it to the point where, your characters aren't just stereotypes in a horror flick. You actually care about the characters, which is what makes it so amazing. You actually give a shit. And then when they do die, you're like, holy shit, that's crazy. You just can't believe that this happened, right? So, pretty much what I'm saying is that if I have to give this a score out of 10, I got to give this a 10. In the genre it is in, this is one of the best stories. This is definitely the best zombie story ever told. There's no question about that. Compared to the movies, compared to the books, anything, I don't care, bar none. This is the best. This is by far the best zombie story ever told, the comic book. And the TV show could surpass it, but it's kind of the same thing. It's just they're doing it differently. But definitely I got to give this a 10 out of 10 for what it is. It's amazing. It takes you down different twists. It's garnered enough attention to get its own TV show. It's going to have its own video games. I mean, really the idea was good in the beginning, and that is the premise of, create a zombie story that doesn't end, okay, after 2 hours. You know what I mean? That doesn't end after the characters have had some fun and a group of raiders come into the mall and destroy it all. Let's see what it's like in the long term. Not the short term. Let's see what happens to these characters. Okay, they're in the shit. Okay, they have enough food for a little while. But what about a year after that? What about 2 years after that? What are those characters like at that point? What happens to them in 2 or 3 years? That's interesting. And that's what basically the idea that Robert Kirkman came up with at the beginning. That's the idea. That's the spark. Okay, and going from there, the reason why the series works so well is because the idea, the original thought of it is what is so special. They figured it out. Okay, he figured out this is how you have to do, this kind of story, and he did it. And this comic book, I'm telling you, if you have not read it, or you like the TV show, you definitely need to check it out. I'm going to give this comic book a 10 out of 10. It is my favorite comic book ever, and I believe it set the bar for any zombie story, or horror, horror or anything to be told. I mean, this is really something special. So that's my review for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll probably do another touch-up, maybe another 50 issues or 100 issues, or who knows, in a few years. And we'll see how it goes. Later, guys. Peace.